That PhD as it is cannot be an equivalent to management science PhD. Not bantu.
ಒಟ್ಟಾರೆ ಅವಕಾಶ ಕೊಡ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ, ಅದನ್ನ ಅವರ್ಡಿಗೆ
ಅವರು PhD ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಅವಕಾಶ ಕೊಟ್ವಿ, ಬಟ್ ಅದೇ PhD ನ ಈಕ್ವಲೆಂಟ್ ಟು MBA
ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ
ಕೊಡ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ.
ಓಕೆ ಸರ್, ಓಕೆ ಸರ್, ಓಕೆ ಸರ್, ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಸರ್.
Okay, now let me get into some of the corporate examples. I'll just skid through because I'll go up to 4:45 and then we shall have a discussion for the last 15 minutes. Yes, why I've taken an Infosys powered by intellect, driven by values. And now we are talking about dysfunctional behavior, lemons. Hagadre Infosys yav group barutte annodu ಒಂದು question barbodu. As you know, it's been built over the last 3-4 decades by the relentless efforts of 7 very high intellectual engineers, which started off as an entrepreneurial model and eventually became one of the faces of Indian corporate world, as you know now. It has got presence all over the globe, and it is said to be one of those high valued IT firm. What went wrong? What is the issue in which that I put this slide? You might be knowing that in 2016 and 17 there was suddenly a dip in the sales revenues of Infosys. They were doing that, their verticals are always been into software development. There was never a horizontal kind of growth. There was no acquiring some other firms. It was just getting deeper into their original software solutions, software development and all that. Somewhere they thought, maybe all of us are the promoters, the original engineers. We are looking at it in one angle. Let us bring a completely neutral person as the CEO. Vishal Sikka was made the CEO, as you might be knowing. He was the first non-Infosian to become the CEO of Infosys. Immediately after he took over, suddenly he started looking at business from a different perspective altogether, which is completely contrary to the original business model. He started acquiring businesses of similar nature, which was never in the picture. It was never a horizontal growth at all. It was always a vertical growth. And suddenly revenues showed up. When you acquire businesses, as you know, 2 balance sheets, 3 balance sheets, 4 balance sheets merging together, suddenly balance sheets started looking really, healthy because of the numbers that it is added. And what actually irked or created irritation to Narayana Murthy was, he linked his salary or his compensation as a percentage of the revenue. Immediately before acquiring Panama and other like-minded companies, his salary was around 95 million, 90 plus millions per annum. It suddenly showed up to 948 millions. 948 millions. Because he linked that to the revenues. And how did the revenue did not come overnight? Revenue came only in the, as you know, in the financial synergy because of adding companies together, which was never heard of. A CEO getting 948 million as executive compensation was never heard of, because it has been built by, as you know, Narayana Murthy is a son of a middle school teacher in the remote village nearing Kolar, and putting all the sweat and the hard work and dedication for so many years, building such a big empire and giving to a completely an outsider on a platter was something very hard to digest for the original promoters. And all his other decisions like deals, he was also into so much of international travels. He took privileges, which was never a business. I mean, which was never heard of in Infosys. They're all middle class family people. So there was a tug of war between Vishal Sikka and Infosys Narayan Murthy. And Narayan Murthy suddenly sold a sizable portion of his uh, shareholding. And again, as you know, there is one more theory which I missed out called as market efficiency, efficient marketing hypothesis, which means the moment some information is released to the market absorbs that information, whether positive or negative, and immediately adjusts its share prices. If it is a positive information, the share prices go up. If it is a negative information, there is something called as negative shock. Similarly, it will not come down, it will come down even further. When Narayan Murthy is, sold his shares, he said he wants to, fund that to his philanthropic activities. Nobody believed. People believed that there is something wrong that is going on in the company. Vishal Sikka and other promoters are in a tussle. And suddenly that is a negative shock. The negative shock made the company's shares to come down very, very drastically, which means to show it is the quality of the information and how do investors perceive that. And somehow he had to leave his company. I mean, he resigned, and immediately Nandan Nilekani took over as a interim CEO. But everybody started talking about, say, these engineers, Narayan Murthy and his group want only them as the CEO. Only for the namesake, they changed Vishal Sikka. And immediately Vishal Sikka became and he started doing all these things. They could not digest, therefore he was thrown out. They did not want to have that allegation. Therefore, they appointed one more, the second one, Salil, as the second non-Infosian to become the CEO. And again, when this fellow took up the charge, immediately there was a whistleblower complaint saying that he is taking certain decisions, he is fudging the accounts, he is misusing the travels, even his family is also traveling on the family at the expense of the company. And all those things, there were a whistleblower complaint. And the moment that whistleblower complaint made headlines in the media, again the shares of Infosys tanked, means it fell down. It means to show whenever there is an outsider, these people only are creating the problem. See, that was the theory that was established. They did not want anybody else to come. Only for eyewash they are doing it. See, the same thing happened even for the second person also. And media, as you know, in India is a different kind of a country. Even the caste equations also came into picture. That he was an OBC, this fellow is a non-Hindu, they want only the upper communities to be CEO, all those. Say these are all hearsay and gossips, I know. But India is such a country where whenever people throws up caste issue, there are people who absorb it. So it is such a engrossing kind of a topic. And even the corporate is also not spared. But fortunately, that whistleblower complaint was investigated, an inquiry was made, and it was proved that the Salil Parekh was not guilty. Thank God it has happened until now he is there. Means this misinformation sometimes also create problems to the best of the companies, And I also have certain instances whenever I talk about Infosys, there are some people who are not, employees are not happy with whatever the facilities that are there. You've been asked to work beyond the working hours, and therefore it is very stressful to work in Infosys. Is another, and there is one more H1B visa issue was also there with Infosys. Even a good company, a decent company like Infosys is also not spared from scandals. But this Enron, I would like to tell you, give a brief hint. Till the time this scandal came into force, It was America's most promising company, seventh largest US company. And Kenneth Lay, who was the CEO of that company, was an advisor to George Bush on energy related matters. All that they touched turned into gold. They were the kings of emperors of energy trading. Everything was going really a fairy tale kind of a story. But what went wrong? The board of directors, headed by the chairman Kenneth Lay, I said the board of lemons, I would say now, because we know the story. They became greedy, and at that point in time, internet has just started making its way. Internet was invented, and those companies, broadband companies which are offering internet services, those companies' shares, we call them as .com shares. They were the highly, popular, and everybody wanted to have the shares of that company because the shares of the .com shares was always on the high because it was a new thing. Internet was just invented and it was introduced. So the companies which are into that were actually getting high prices in the stock market. Now, what these people did was they also became greedy. They thought that there were enough cash flows which were there in the company. They diverted those cash flows. This is called as siphoning off. This is what agency theory said. Siphoning off of corporate funds. Corporate funds were siphoned off in order to put their money into the shares, .com shares. But it cannot be done on the balance sheet, right? Then what they did was all the surpluses and the reserves which were taken up or which was used for funding these investments in .com shares were shown on the asset side. People who are there in commerce and management would understand that loss and the assets are both on the asset side. So instead of showing it as loss, they show it as special purpose vehicle, investment in special purpose vehicles, EPVs. But where that investment was done, it was done in .com shares. And unfortunately, these people, timing, their fate, their destiny was not good. They entered the market at the peak of the high prices and they took a heavy debt. And the moment they invested, there was a crash. The .com crash means the share prices of the bubble was burst. And suddenly the share prices of those companies which are offering internet services crashed because there is always a saying, the more you go high, somewhere down the line, the decline starts. But their misfortune, they entered at the very high and when it is dropped, all the revenues that you used for funding these investments evaporated. Then what they did? They did not, they do the window dressing of the balance sheet. There was a huge loss. They did not show the loss. They showed it as investment in special purpose vehicle. The statutory auditor and the board of directors went hand in glove. They showed a rosy picture for 2, 3, 4, 5 years continuously. Even though there were no profits, they were showing us profits. All the manipulations were done only in the accounting records. And finally, as you know, as our information asymmetry theory says, the market collapsed. Somebody blew the whistle. Everybody came to know that both the auditor and the board of directors are doing all this fraud. They're just inflating the profits, inflating the revenues when there was no revenue at all, because the entire profits, entire revenue that they originally generated in the energy was completely invested, siphoned off into .com shares, and the .com shares fell flat. Therefore, all the profits were gone. Then, where are these people? These are the people. Ken Clay, who is there on the right top, he was convicted on 10 counts of fraud and conspiracy, and he faced up to 165 years in jail. But fortunately for him, he died of a heart attack before sentencing. So these are the lemon brigade that I am talking about. except the last right one, Sharon William, who is the Vice President of Corporate Development, and she is the one who blew the whistle that this has happened. These people try to make money for themselves using public money, but their plan did not come through. So this was a major scandal that the US has faced. I would call it the giant of all the scandals, including the global financial crisis that we had in the late 1990s, 98, 97, 98. After this, US came out with an act called as Sarbanes-Oxley Act. Sarbanes-Oxley Act as a correction to this scandal. ಲೆಟ್ ಮಿ ಟೆಲ್ ಯು, ನಮ್ಮ ಲಾ ಎಲ್ಲ ಹೆಂಗಿದೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಕರೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಬರ್ತದೆ. ಹರ್ಷದ್ ಮೆಹತಾದ್ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರು ಮೇಡಮ್ ಒಂದ್ಸಲ. ಹರ್ಷದ್ ಮೆಹತಾದಿಂದನೇ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಸೆಬಿ ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಬಂದಿದ್ದು. ಹರ್ಷದ್ ಮೆಹತಾ ಅನ್ನೋನೊಬ್ಬ ಬರ್ದೇ ಹೋಗಿದ್ರೆ ಈ ಸೆಬಿ ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಅನ್ನೋದೇ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಅದೇ ತರ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸರ್ಬೇನ್ಸ್ ಓಕ್ಸ್ಲಿ ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಅಂತ ಬಂತು. ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ನೌ ಅ ವೆರಿ ಟಫ್ ಆಕ್ಟ್ ವಿಚ್ calls this, the proceeds of these corporate frauds as crime proceeds, and even capital punishment to the board of directors, the CEO, or whoever is involved, including the statutory auditor. Capital, hang on to death. So that is the enormity or the seriousness with which the US lawmakers responded. Way back in 1992, I'm talking about 1992. Now, what is India doing? Let us think about it. Now, Satyam is a similar case. And one thing that should be known to you is that, I don't know what is it a credible signal? I would like to ask you people. Whenever any company goes in for a rough patch or a scam or a scandal, if you look at the last 2-3 years, they would get all the awards. ಅಥವಾ ಯಾರ್ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಅವಾರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಬರ್ತದೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಹುಷಾರಾಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು. ಅದರಿಂದ ಸಿಗ್ನಲ್ ನಾಳೆ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಇಯರ್ ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಗ್ಬೋದಾ ಅಂತ. This was the first company. It got Golden Peacock Award in corporate governance. This company, Satyam, Golden Peacock Award in corporate governance this year. Next year, it's a fraud company. They have got all the nexus with the top. I'm talking about the politicians. As I said, Kenneth Lay was an advisor to Bush, and Ramalinga Raju was there in the committee of Ministry of Telecommunication and Technology in India. So they hold key positions by virtue of their corporate position. And how did it all happen? They did all this. See, the cash balance was 321 and 5,361. Window dressing, we call it as. How can that be possible? ಈಗ ಬೇರೆಯವ್ರು ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ಈಗ ಎಕ್ಸಾಕ್ಟ್ ಸೈನ್ಸ್ ನನ್ ಭಾರಿ ಖುಷಿ. H2 + O = water. It can never become fruit juice. ನಮ್ಮ ಇದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಹಂಗಲ್ಲ. ನಾವು ಕಾಮರ್ಸ್ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ 1 + 1 can be 3 ಅಂತೀವಿ, ನೀವು 2 ಅಂತೀರಿ. 2 + 2 = 5. It can be 5 ಅಂತೀವಿ ನಾವು. ಸಿನರ್ಜಿ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟ್. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಮ್ಯಾನಿಪುಲೇಷನ್ಸ್ ನೋಡಿ. ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ಯಾಶ್ ಬ್ಯಾಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಇರೋದೇ 321 ಕೋಟಿ, ತೋರಿಸಿರೋದು 5,361 ಕೋಟಿ. ಇದನ್ನ ಅಥೆಂಟಿಕೇಟ್ ಮಾಡೋರು ಯಾರು? ಚಾರ್ಟರ್ಡ್ ಅಕೌಂಟೆಂಟ್, ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಚ್ಯುಟರಿ ಆಡಿಟರ್. ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಚ್ಯುಟರಿ ಆಡಿಟರ್ನೇ ಬುಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಹಾಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಮುಗೀತಲ್ಲ. ಈ ತರ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬಂದ್ರು. ಆದ್ರೆ ದುಡ್ಡು ಎಲ್ಲೋಯ್ತು ಅನ್ನೋದು, ಸಿ ವೇರ್ ಡಿಡ್ ದ ಮನಿ ಗೋ? ಯು ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಸಿ. ಇದನ್ನ ನಾನು, ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಎ ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಕಲ್ ಸ್ಲೈಡ್ ಫಾರ್ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಅಸಿಮೆಟ್ರಿ. Please note this. I want to put practice into your theory. ನೋಡಿ, ಪ್ರಮೋಟರ್ಸ್ 2001ರಲ್ಲಿ 100 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಶೇರ್ ಇದ್ರೆ 25 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಇವ್ರದೇ ಇತ್ತು, ಇನ್ನು ಉಳಿದಿದ್ದ 75 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಜನರಲ್ ಪಬ್ಲಿಕ್ ಇತ್ತು. ಬೇರೆ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಷನಲ್ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟರ್ಸ್, ಜನರಲ್ ಪಬ್ಲಿಕ್ ಇತ್ತು. ಪ್ರಮೋಟರ್ಸ್ ಶೇರ್ ವಾಸ್ ಹೌ ಮಚ್? 25.6%. ಕ್ರಾಶ್ ಆದ ದಿವಸ ನೋಡಿ, ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಡೇ 5.13 ಆಯ್ತು. ಅಂದ್ರೆ 7-8 ವರ್ಷಗಳ ಕಾಲ ಅವ್ರು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದಾರೆ? ಅವರ ಶೇರ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಮಾರ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತಾರೆ. ಯಾಕೆ ಮಾರ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಇದೆ. ಲೆಮನ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಇದೆ ಡಿಫೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಅಂತ. ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಇಲ್ಲ? ಶೇರ್ ಹೋಲ್ಡರ್ಸ್ಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಬೇರೆ ಯಾವ ಮಾರ್ಕೆಟ್ ಪಾರ್ಟಿಸಿಪೆಂಟ್ಸ್ಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಓನ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ಸೈಡರ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ದ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್. ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಅಸಿಮಿಟ್ರಿ. ನೌ ದೇ ನೋ ದಟ್ ಸಮಥಿಂಗ್ ಈಸ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ರಾಂಗ್. ಈಗಲೇ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಪ್ರೈಸ್ ಇದೆ, ಶೇರ್ಸ್ ಪ್ರೈಸ್ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದೆ, ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಬೆಲೆನಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾರ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಡೋಣ ಅಂತ ಅವರೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾರ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ರು. 5% ಬಂತು ನೋಡಿ. ಅಷ್ಟೊತ್ತಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ಒಳ್ಳೊಳ್ಳೆ ಬೆಲೆಗೆ ಅವ್ರು ಮಾರ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ರು. ಕೊನೆಗೆ ಲಾಸ್ ಆದವ್ರು ಯಾರಿಗೆ? ವೆನ್ ಇಟ್ ಕ್ರ್ಯಾಶ್ಡ್ ಫಾರ್ ಎ ಕಾಮನ್ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಯು ಅಂಡ್ ಮೀ. ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ ಅಗೇನ್ ಏಜೆನ್ಸಿ ಥಿಯರಿ. ಅಂಡ್ ಇದು because of agency theory, because there is a separation of ownership and management is running the affairs of the business. Management has information. What management has done? Management has diverted the funds. ಲಾಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲಾಯ್ತು. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಪ್ರಾಫಿಟ್ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇರೋ ದುಡ್ಡನ್ನ, ಕ್ಯಾಶ್ ಕೌ, ಮಿಲ್ಕಿಂಗ್ ದ ಪ್ರಾಫಿಟ್, that milk should have been distributed among the shareholders. Unfortunately, all the milk was drank by these promoters, Ramalinga Raju and his team. ತಗೊಂಡೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಎಲ್ಲ ಬೇರೆ ಕಡೆ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು. ಇನ್ಫ್ರಾಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಆವಾಗ ಹೈದರಾಬಾದ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. And they called it as Maitas infrastructure, which is spelled opposite to Satyam. And finally, when this happened, again, Arthur Anderson was the chartered accountant of. There was some. I'll come to that. Means the chartered accountants, statutory auditors, and PwC. PwC was the auditors of this company. So they went hand in hand and they presented a different picture. ದುಡ್ಡು ಎಲ್ಲೋಯ್ತು? ದುಡ್ಡು ಇವ್ರು ತಗೊಂಡು ಯಾವ್ದಾವ್ದೋ ಕಂಪನಿಗಳನ್ನ ಇವರು ಪ್ರಾರಂಭ ಮಾಡಿ ಅವ್ರ ಹೆಂಡತಿ ಹೆಸರಲ್ಲಿ, ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಹೆಸರಲ್ಲಿ, ರಿಲೇಟಿವ್ಸ್ ಹೆಸರಲ್ಲಿ ಲಾಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು. ಕೊನೆಗೆ ಲಾಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ತಡ್ಕೊಳಕ್ ಆಗದೆ ಇದ್ದಾಗ ಬ್ಯಾಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಶೀಟ್ ನ ಬ್ರಷ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು, ವಿಂಡೋ ಡ್ರೆಸ್. ಅದು ಆಗದೆ ಇದ್ದಾಗ then he made a very famous confession statement of Ramalinga Raju. He says it was like riding a tiger without knowing how to get out of it, because if I get out of it, I'll be eaten by the tiger. Anta hands up ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಡ. But what to do? People have lost money. He has gone behind the bars. Luckily, government intervened and Tech Mahindra took over. But in the meantime, ಗಾಬರಿ ಆಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಸೇಲ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ, ಬಂದಷ್ಟು ಬರಲಿ ಅಂತ, ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಲಾಸ್ ಆಯ್ತು. So like this, there are host of examples that we can give in copy, which is in direct connection to agency theory and information asymmetry, dysfunctional behavior, lemons, moral hazard. These are the keywords that I am talking about. ಇದು Volkswagen ಗೊತ್ತಿರಬಹುದು ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀನಿ. It is German's very well-known company, a brand and reputation which is built over 150 years of delivering a common man car in Germany. Volkswagen it is called. Volks means Aam Admi, common man. ನಮ್ಮ ಮಾರುತಿ 800 ಇದ್ದಂಗೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಜರ್ಮನಿನಲ್ಲಿ. ಅವ್ರೇನ್ ಮಾಡೋದು? They went into American market. They wanted to capture the market, and in America, Toyota was the market leader. So there was a mandate given to the board of directors that you should become number one in America. How do you do it? I don't know. You do it. This is a mandate. But interesting is ಇದು. They analyzed why Toyota is number one. The reason that they could find was it was giving more mileage. ನೀವು ಹೇಳ್ತಿರಲ್ಲ ಬರೀ ಇಂಡಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತ್ರ ಬಹಳ ಪ್ರೈಸ್ ಕಾನ್ಶಿಯಸ್, ಫ್ಯೂಯಲ್ ಕಾನ್ಶಿಯಸ್ ಅಂತ. Even in America also it is the same. Toyota was giving more mileage and Volkswagen was giving less mileage. Then what to do? In order to improve the mileage, if you want to improve the mileage, then you have to compromise on pollution, emissions. Emissions ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ನೀವು ಅಲ್ಲೇನಾದ್ರೂ ಮೈಲೇಜ್ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಇಂಪ್ರೂವ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೇನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಈ ಎಮಿಷನ್ಸ್ ಏನಿದಾವೆ, ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಡೈಆಕ್ಸೈಡ್, ನೈಟ್ರೋಜನ್, that would be higher and environmental regulations will be violated. They were in a fix. What to do? If I improve the mileage, environmental clearance I will not get. Then what to do? They thought of a very smart idea. Environment clearance ಗೆ ಗಾಡಿ ಹೋಗುತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ಹೋಗುತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ದೇಶ ಅಂತ ಮಾರೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಮುಂಚೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಂಜಿನ್ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಒಂದು cheating software ಅನ್ನು ಹಾಕಿ, cheating device was inserted into the engine while it was going for a environmental clearance. When it was inserted, the emissions got clearance. It got cleared. Alinda ಹೊರಗೆ ಬಂದ ಮೇಲೆ, before it was sold, that cheating device was removed. ಸೇಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ರು. ಸೇಲ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಏನಾಯ್ತು, ಮೈಲೇಜ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಬಂತು, ಬಟ್ ಎನ್ವೈರನ್ಮೆಂಟಲ್ ವೈಲೇಷನ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು. Environmental Protection Agency could not pick it up only because during the inspection there was a cheating software that was inserted. So it was inserted, it was taken away, and it was sold. Engo nadita ittu, business pickup agak shuru aitu. But as you people know, all these things cannot go on and on. There was a whistleblower complaint, and then somebody stopped it in the middle of the road, and then checked the environment emissions, and they were caught. Do you know this act of Volkswagen? There was a big headline. I know. I've read that. From Hall of Fame to Hall of Shame in 15 days. 150 years of empire built on trust was crashed in 15 days. I give this as a case study to my own students. I tell them, you just tell me what is the loss because of managerial discretion. Managers were given discretion to take a decision. They misuse that position. They in fact abuse that position. What is the loss? Ella barkomandro. 11 million cars were recalled. ವಾಪಸ್ ಕರ್ಸಿದ್ರು. ಅದ್ರ ದುಡ್ಡು ಎಷ್ಟು? ಎನ್ವೈರನ್ಮೆಂಟಲ್ ಪ್ರೊಟೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಏಜೆನ್ಸಿ ಫೈನ್ ಹಾಕಿದ್ರು. ಅದ್ರದೆಷ್ಟು ದುಡ್ಡು? ಬಿಲಿಯನ್ಸ್, ಇನ್ ಬಿಲಿಯನ್ಸ್. And do you know the market capitalization? Just see, 15 days ಅಲ್ಲಿ, September 18th ಇಂದ September 25th, ನೋಡಿ, ಇದು 11 ದಿವಸದಲ್ಲಿ how much of money people lost? 95 billion to 60 billion market share, market capitalization. 35 billion. 1 billion is equal to 100 crores. And 1 rupee is equal to 80 dollar. It is in dollars. 1 billion is equal to 100 crores. And $1 is equal to 82 rupees, 84 rupees today. Just imagine. Adella lekaki, konege, what is the loss of the trust? How long it will take for you to rebuild that image? Tell me. One cheating device inserted by one CEO called as Markinson and his team, only to overtake Toyota. It costed so many millions, and the trust built over 150 years in a matter of 15 days. This is agency conflict. This is agency. Say, shareholders did not know. They were never consulted because they were all over the place. Diffuse ownership structure, we call it as. Owners are not there in the business. Owners have given the money, and managers, the so-called brains, have taken over. And these brains do this. Brains are being used destructively, not constructively. And then I'll come to them. What did he do? Everybody, even whenever I go, he, in fact, from his father, he inherited a very small business. He was extravagant all along. He was a very flamboyant and very, he showcased himself as a superstar more than a businessman. But he did exceedingly well in all the businesses till he touched this. He was one of the most respected businessmen. And he was also a Rajya Sabha member. You might be knowing, from Karnataka. And he was into all this. And he was called as the king of good times. And he kept the country in good spirits in his spirit business. But what went wrong? He went into, regardless of how the story ended, ನೋಡಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇದು ನಾನು ತಗೊಂಡು ಬಂದಿಲ್ಲ ಇದನ್ನ, ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಇದರಿಂದ ತಗೊಂಡು ಬಂದಿದ್ದೀನಿ. He said, I am in hospitality business, not in transport. He wanted to sell lifestyle to Indian middle class. He wanted to give international experience in domestic flights. That was his intent. The question is whether a genuine intention leads to a good business proposition, or whether his intent itself was bad in the beginning. This is $1 million question that most of the time I do discuss. I get contrasting viewpoints about him. He entered the business when the fuel price, the ATF fuel, the airline turbulent fuel was at the peak, because it was consuming 95% of the operating cost. In fact, he pleaded with the Indian government to set up a canal right from Middle East, and he would get all those fuel directly so that his cost would be less. But Indian government did not give him the permission. But in his very flamboyant style, he started, do you know the kind of noises that he made right through? He was there in person in order to select air hostesses. He brain hunted good pilots from the other airlines. It was a real big hue and cry in the airlines business, and he funded. Now let me come to Modigliani and Miller's theory. Modigliani and Miller very clearly says, if you go for an unrelated diversification, please use owners' funds. He never used, he took loads of debt. Maybe if you were to be successful, there would have been a different theory in corporate capital structure. Luckily, M&M remained now. His theory holds good even today. And see the losses on the red lines. And this is what he owes to the banks. And today, where it is. So this will go on. No. I seriously, running short of time. There are a few more important things. Now, let me come to the last part of it. I have just started with economics. I took up a few commerce and management related corporate evidences. Now, what is the answer? Where the answer does? Where do you look at then? Because lots of public money are being siphoned off by these kinds of lemons, and the larger public is put into a lot of distress. Now, whether we have an answer in law, there is a saying in India, law is very strong in letter, but not in spirit, not in implementation. People say that corporate frauds are as old as hills in India. There is a lack of integrity in public life, especially in business. And these are the emerging. You should now tell me whether these are enough. Finally, ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಬಂದು ನಿಲ್ಲಿಸ್ಬಿಡ್ತೀನಿ ನಾನು. ಬಹಳ ಸ್ಪೀಡಾಗಿ ಹೋಗ್ತೀನಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಲಾ ಬಗ್ಗೆ. Some high points ಅಷ್ಟೇ ತಗೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ತೀನಿ. Because of all these wrongdoings, because of all these scandals, all these corporate misuse of public money, law has to get enough teeth. Law should become stronger. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಇತ್ತೀಚಿನ ದಿನಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗಿದೆ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ನಾನು ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಐ ವಾಂಟ್ ನೌ ಬಿಫೋರ್ ದಿಸ್ ಕಂಪನೀಸ್ ಆಕ್ಟ್ 2013, the revised company act 2013, the amended company act, all these scandals were investigated under IPC only. But in 2013, separate definition of fraud came into being. It was trialed under an office called as Serious Fraud Investigation Office, under 212 of the Act, and it was an amalgamation of several sections of IPC. IPC 405, 415, 463, cheating, breach of trust, falsification of accounts. ಇದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಸೇರಿ ಒಂದು ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಅನ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಒಂದು ಸೆಕ್ಷನ್ ತಗೊಂಡು ಬರ್ತಾರೆ. Then, if the fraud involves an amount at least 10 lakhs or more, whichever is, or 1% of the turnover, the imprisonment is not less than 6 months, and it can go up to maximum 10 years. Ili capital punishment alla, 10 years maximum. Is it enough? Is that a strong deterrent for people to not to commit offense is a question. And the fine may extend up to 3 times the amount of fraud. ಈಗ ನಾವು 6,900 ಎಷ್ಟು ಹೇಳಿದ್ವಿ ಯಾರಿಗೆ, ನೀರವ್ ಮೋದಿಗೆ 7,000, roughly approximately 7,000, means he can be fined 3 times, means 21,000 crores. 3 times the fraud amount can be put as fine. And imprisonment shall not be less than 3 years, because it is all public interest only. We are talking about public companies only. And grant of bail, getting bail is very, very difficult, because you have to fulfill 2 conditions. One is the prosecutor has been given opportunity to oppose his release, public prosecutor. And secondly, there must be reasonable grounds that he will not commit such offense while on bail. So double conditions for getting the bail. Now this is the master stroke. Is this the master stroke? I am not saying it is. I am asking you, is this the master stroke? Under Prevention of Money Laundering Act, means can this be called as an offense, a scheduled offense? Because if it is proved as an offense, whatever the property, that you can confiscate the property of the person who has committed that crime, because it is termed as proceeds of crime. Proceeds of crime. Scheduled offense itself means, if you look at the schedule, you can see that offense because of drug trafficking, human trafficking, terrorist activity. These kinds of offenses are there in scheduled offense. And if you make money through those illegal activities, it is called as proceeds of crime. Now, corporate frauds money is also treated as proceeds of crime. What is the advantage? The advantage is you can confiscate and attach the property if it is a scheduled crime. Then how about auditors? If you look at the history of all these offenses, auditor's role is as important as the promoter's role. He is actually the kingpin of the lemon brigade, because this was being done, the manipulation in the accounting was done because of him. So should he be left alone? No. Whatever the imprisonment, whatever the fine that is applicable to the promoters, same thing is applicable to auditor also. These are the new things that have come. And then SEBI, as recently as 2020, if there is a whistleblower complaint or sumoto means if it smells, if there are certain signals that this company is doing something fishy, it can appoint a forensic auditor. This is the new job that is on offer today, which has got scope. Higher the number of scandals and higher the lemons, higher the people with moral hazard, higher the people with dysfunctional behavior, higher is the chances of getting it forensically audited. And this is a separate line of discipline which integrates knowledge of accounting, auditing, criminal psychology, and investigation. Not really on the multidisciplinary on the subject. This is Brahmastra anta ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. People are saying Brahmastra. Now another act was enacted, Fugitive Economic Offenders Act. ಇದು ಕರೆಕ್ಷನ್, ಇದು ಒಂದು ಕರೆಕ್ಷನ್. ಯಾರಿಗೋಸ್ಕರ ಬಂದಿದ್ದು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ವಿಜಯ ಮಲ್ಯ ಮತ್ತು ನೀರವ್ ಮೋದಿ. ಅದು ಹೆಂಗಿತ್ತಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರನ್ನೇನಾದ್ರೂ ಹಿಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬಂದು ಆಮೇಲೆ ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಜೈಲ್ಗೆ ಹಾಕಿ ಅವರ ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ಟಿನ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಫಿಸಿಕಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಅವನನ್ನ ಇಟ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ಇವ್ರೆಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಸುಳು ಸಿಕ್ಕಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಹೊಟ್ಟೋಗ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾರಲ್ಲಪ್ಪ, ಇನ್ನೂ ಬಂದಿಲ್ಲಲ್ಲ ಇಬ್ರು. ಅದಕ್ಕೇನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು, ಅವ್ರಿಗೋಸ್ಕರ ಸ್ಪೆಷಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಒಂದು ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು, ಕರೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಆಕ್ಟ್. ಏನಂದ್ರೆ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಸಿಗ್ಲಿ ಬಿಡ್ಲಿ, ಇಫ್ ಈಸ್ proved as a fugitive economic offender wherever he is in any part of the world, or if he is no more also, his property can be confiscated. This is a new law. Then Competition Act, I'm not taking that as a medicine, as an answer to whatever the laws that I earlier talked about, but there are certain provisions which gives enough teeth to the government, to the Competition Commission of India, so that the hazardous or the lemons activities of some of the companies can be, to a large extent, you can stop them, you can regulate them. What are they? I'm just going through a few sections. Prevention of anti-competitive agreements leading to appreciable adverse effect on competition. Means, there are companies, I'll give an example so that others will also see. There was a cartel of all cement manufacturers. ಎಲ್ಲ ಸೇರ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ರು, ಒಂದು 14 ಜನ, ACC, ಬಿರ್ಲಾ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸೇರ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಒಂದು ಪ್ರೈಸ್ ಡಿಟರ್ಮಿನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಡೋದು. ನೀನ್ ಕಾಂಪಿಟೇಟರ್ ಹತ್ರ ಹೋದಾಗ ಅವ್ನು ಕಡಿಮೆ ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ತಾನು ನೀನು ಅವನ ಹತ್ರ ಹೋಗೋದು. ನೀನು ಯಾರ ಹತ್ರ ಆದ್ರೂ ಹೋಗಪ್ಪ, ಒಂದು ಬ್ಯಾಗಿಗೆ 275, 250, ವಾಟ್ ಎವರ್. Is it not anti-competitive? Will it not hurt the interest of the consumers? ಆಮೇಲೆ this act has got one good thing is, having dominant position is not a problem at all. Enjoying monopoly is not a. I'll give an example of Jio. Jio ಬಂದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಾಂಪಿಟೇಟರ್ಸ್ ಕಾಂಪಿಟೇಷನ್ ಕಮಿಷನ್ ಹೋದ್ರು. ಏನಂತ ಹೋದ್ರು? After the entry of Jio, it is making life miserable to the other competitors. Secondly, it is denying entry to new people coming into the business. It is enjoying monopoly. ಅಂತ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಹೋಗಿ ಕಾಂಪಿಟೇಷನ್ ಕಮಿಷನ್ ಕದ ತಟ್ಟಿದ್ರು. Then the CCI listen to the argument. They ask this question: yes, whatever you say is right, but are they abusing the dominant position? Yes, they are in dominant position, no doubt. But are they abusing it? How do they assume? By charging extravagant charges for their services, for their whatever internet, Wi-Fi, whatever. No, they're competitive. The prices are competitive. As long as enjoying monopoly and still delivering value to the customers at a reasonable competitive price, it is not monopoly. They are not abuse the dominant position. This was the decision. And then the court said, moving on, if they do so, please come back again. As of now, we have got enough evidence to say that they are not abusing the dominant position. They are enjoying, but they are not abusing. Misuse ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. And regulation of combinations. ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ತುಂಬಾ cases ಇದೆ. I am not going to do much of them, but before I stop, I would like to draw your attention, because this is something which is a landmark piece of legislation, I believe, in order to arrest the possibility of the corporate frauds at the very, very early stage itself. When you smell that there is something goes wrong, it is better to arrest that. Nip it in the bud ಅಂತಾರಲ್ಲ, ಹಂಗೆ ಮೊಳಕೆನಲ್ಲೇ ಅದನ್ನ ಸರಿ ಮಾಡುವಂತ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಬಹುದಾ? ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯತೆಗಳಿದೆಯಾ? This is what it says is, see, you are getting into business, you want to do business, your intentions are good, but unfortunately market does not feel so. Just because you have a good business idea does not necessarily mean that the market accepts you. Most of the business ideas have become failures. ಏನಾಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಫೇಲ್ಯೂರ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಫೇಲ್ಯೂರ್ ಆದಾಗ ಆದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಅಕ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳಕ್ಕೆ ಇವ್ರಿಗೆ ಇಷ್ಟ ಇರಲ್ಲ. ನಾನು ಬ್ಯಾಂಕ್ರಪ್ಟ್ ಆಗ್ತೀನಿ, ಇನ್ಸಾಲ್ವೆಂಟ್ ಅಂತ ಡಿಕ್ಲೇರ್ ನನ್ಗೆ ಇಷ್ಟ ಇರಲ್ಲ. ನೀವೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ, ಆಸ್ ಐ ಸೆಡ್, ಯು ಪಂಪ್ ಇನ್ ಫೇಲ್ಯೂರ್ ಗೋಸ್ ಟು ದೇರ್ ಹೆಡ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದೆ ಆಗ್ಲೇ. ದೇ ಪಂಪ್ ಇನ್ ಮೋರ್ ಮನಿ, not willing to accept failure, egoistic. Some of the businesses are, businessmen are egoistic in India. They don't want to accept, digest the fact that they are failure. They will pump in more money, more good money to chase the bad money. Then more good money will become bad money. Then some more good money. Finally, ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, wrong decisions, abusing of their positions as managers, self-serving interest, then business collapses. Then again you paint, accounting painting. Then again, finally, hands up. ಇಷ್ಟು ಸ್ಟೇಜ್ ಪಾಸ್ ಆಗೋ ತನಕ ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನರಿಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಲಾಸ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದ್ರ ಬದಲು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಫೇಲ್ಯೂರ್ ಆಯ್ತಾ, ನೋ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಅಟ್ ಆಲ್, ಅಕ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್. You did it all good intention. No, you accept. You knock the doors of IBC. IBC ನಲ್ಲಿ ಕಂಪನಿ ಲಾ ಟ್ರಿಬ್ಯುನಲ್ ಅಂತ ಇದೆ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗಿ ಕದ ತಟ್ಟಿ, ಯಾರ್ಯಾರು ಕದ ತಟ್ಟಬಹುದು? There are 3 people who can do that. This is a comprehensive legislation wherein it covers everybody, every businesses. I am looking at only the company's perspective. Means anybody at the very beginning stage itself. There are 3 people who can do that. There are 3 people who can do that. One is operational creditor. Who is an operational creditor? A firm or an individual who has supplied goods and services to the company and the company is unable to pay the money back on time. Immediately you can knock the doors and see, sir, you kottilla, nan time al sariya kottilla nodi. Allena shurule. And then financial creditor or a bank or a financial institution or a group of individuals or anybody who has supplied the funds. The moment you default on the payment of interest, on the very first occasion itself, they can knock the doors. Or the beauty of this is this corporate debtor. Andre ಆ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ನ ಯಾರು ಪ್ರಮೋಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾನೆ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾ, ಓ ನಾನೇನೋ ಬಹಳ ಇದು ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೆ, ಆಗ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. Let me say, see, let me come out with lot of dignity. Say, not my fault. It is a wrong business idea. That's it. Let me knock the doors of NCTL myself. Nan kailagta illa. Please help me out. Then what the NCLT do? It will appoint a resolution professional. ನಾನು ಬಹಳ ಸ್ಟೋರಿ ತರ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ, ತುಂಬಾ ಡೀಟೇಲಿಂಗ್ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. Just to make you understand the spirit of this particular legislation, which says appoint a resolution professional who is a master in this restructuring business. He will look at 2 possible options, only 2 options. One is it a viable proposition? Can this be repaired, reconstructed, resolved, whatever the ways? Can a stronger company take over this company? Bhushan Steel, it has happened. Or it's a bad idea. There is no chance that this idea will survive. Therefore, liquidate, close the show. When NCLT does it under the provisions of this act, then whoever is the owner, there is no social stigma at all by declaring as insolvent or bankrupt. It is lending decency and dignity to bankruptcy. Please try to understand. It is trying to erase the social stigma that is attached with bankruptcy and insolvency. There is nothing wrong in becoming insolvent. There is nothing wrong becoming ನೀವೇನು ತಲೆ ಮೇಲೆ ಟವಲ್ ಹಾಕೊಂಡು ಊರ್ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಹೋಗಂಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಪಾಪರ್ ಆಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟೆ ನಾನು. NCLT ಕೊಡ್ತು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ನೀನು ಡೀಸೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೋಗಿದ್ಯಾ, ಒಪ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ಯಾ, ನನ್ನ ಕೈಲಾಗಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ, ಅವ್ರು ಒಪ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಅವ್ರು ನಿಮಗೆ ಕ್ಲೀನ್ ಶೀಟ್ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. Okay, you can go ahead. You understand? So whatever the social stigma that was attached with the loss, this act tries to erase it so that it should not eventually get into fraud stages, and it should not eventually get into a stage where many people will lose their money. At least if it is done at the very first stage, the loss will be minimal, no? Am I right? Hope you're following me. Yes, it's a process where rescue a viable firm or liquidate an unviable. These are the statistics for you. In the last 9 financial years, because of this act, banks have recovered rupees 10 lakhs crores. First stage alle ಮುಗಿಸೋದು, ಅದು ಇನ್ನೂ ಕೆಟ್ಟೋಗಿ ಅದು ಬ್ಯಾಡ್ ಆಗಿ ಅದು ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಬ್ಯಾಡ್ ಆಗೋ ತನಕ ವೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದಿರಾ, ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ನಿಲ್ಲಿಸಿ. ಐದರ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಬಿನ್ ಟೇಕನ್ ಓವರ್ ಬೈ a viable firm or it is being liquidated at that instance itself. Everything is very clean, the entire process, because market is not an accommodating machine. Just you are there does not mean that you should have good business. Since launch, IBC has resolved 72% of the distressed asset cases. This is record. 72% ರಿಕವರಿ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಔಟ್ ಆಫ್ ನೋಡಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಕಂಪನೀಸ್ ಇದರ ಮೊರೆ ಹೋಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅನ್ನಕ್ಕೆ. 6571, 6571 corporate insolvency resolution proceedings were initiated since 2016. Out of that, 4515 cases have been closed successfully. 2485 were concluded with resolution plans. Just see. Andre, they were good ideas only, and they were resolved or reconstructed, or somebody takes it over. And another 2030 cases resulted in liquidations. Amale resolutions hogta, it is still this legislation is still nascent stage, 7, 8, 9 years down the line. ಇನ್ನೂ ಇಂಪ್ರೊವೈಸೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಎಲ್ಲಿ ತನಕ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಈ ಹಿಂದೂಸ್ತಾನ್ ಫೋಟೋಗ್ರಾಫಿಕ್ ಕಂಪನಿಯಿಂದ ಊಟಿನಲ್ಲಿತ್ತು, ಅದನ್ನ ಯಾವ ತರ ರಿಸಾಲ್ವ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಚೆಕ್ ದಟ್ ಆಸ್ ಎ ಕೇಸ್. ಅದನ್ನ ಯಾವ ತರ ರಿಸಾಲ್ವ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಅಂದ್ರೆ, 50% ವಾಸ್ ರಿಸಾಲ್ವ್ಡ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಅನದರ್ 50% ವಾಸ್ liquidated. A part of the business was taken over by some other stronger company and a part was liquidated. So this innovation is also possible, and it is still evolving as a piece of legislation. So now that I'm coming to the end of my summation of my discussion held so far, what was a simple fraud? Accounting ಅನ್ನೋದು ಒಂದು ನ್ಯಾರೋ ತರ ಎರಪ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. As a teacher, I'm really happy to say that I would like to teach that in a classroom rather than in a research room, because students should get the benefit. Whatever research that you do, unless that research, it's not going to make any life-changing research. As of now, you people will be knowing about it, and it's more of an ornamental value. But if the research intent that we have and the content that we have, or that we have accumulated in the process of our research, I too have around 12 students completing PhD under me. Another 8 are under me now, still doing. Now I feel if all this knowledge percolate down to our students in the classrooms, unless we teach with that intent, and when you look at this, if I were to take only that slide where I said actual reported itala cash balance ishtu, liability ishtu, idu ನಮ್ಮ ಹುಡುಗರಿಗೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಹೇಳವಲ್ಲ ನಾನು. ಆದ್ರೆ ಹಿಂದೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಯಾಕೆ ಆತರ ಆಯ್ತು? Because of economic, this agency theory, separation of ownership and management, information asymmetry. The managers had information, shareholders did not have information. If you are able to link, and then moral hazard, these are the lemons, then come to what they did. Then what is the way out? I mean, what is the resolution? ಕೊನೆ ಎಂದಿದೆ ಇದು ಇಷ್ಟನಾ? ಲಾ ತಗೊಬನ್ನಿ. ಲಾ ತಗೊಂಡು ಬಂದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್ ಬರ್ತದ್ರಿ. ಲಾ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್, ಒಂದು ಫುಲ್ ಸ್ಟಾಪ್ ಕಾಮ makes a huge difference. You teach literature also. You see the most of the judgments that are being pronounced, they're pronounced on the basis of some extraordinary, expressions made by people like Mahatma Gandhi, like Ambedkar, like Buddha, Vivekananda. Just see, there is always a link. In law, literature and language are linked. Nodi, ನಾನು ಕನ್ನಡ ಮೀಡಿಯಂ ನಾನು ನಿಜವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ, ಈ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್ ಇವೆಲ್ಲ ನನಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಡಿಸ್ಫಂಕ್ಷನಲ್ ಬಿಹೇವಿಯರ್, ಯಾರೋ ನನಗೆ ಹೇಳು ಆಟೋಮಿಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಕಾಂಪಿಟೇಷನ್, ಡಿಸ್ಫಂಕ್ಷನಲ್ ಬಿಹೇವಿಯರ್, ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಅಸಿಮಿಟ್ರಿ, ನಿನ್ ಕೈಲಿ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲಪ್ಪ, ನೀನು UG ಇಂದ ಬಂದಿದ್ಯಾ ಅಂದ್ರು ನಾನು ಬಂದಾಗ. ಇದು ಬಹಳ ಹೈ ಲೆವೆಲ್ ರೀ, ಇಂಟರ್ನ್ಯಾಷನಲ್ ಆಡಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಆಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಅಂದ್ರು, ಎದುರಿಸಿದ್ರು. ನಂತರ I took it as a challenge and I said yes, I'll do it. And after all, English ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ತಪ್ಪು ಮಾತಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅಷ್ಟೇ ತಾನೆ. ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಓಕೆ, ಅದಿರೋದೇ ತಪ್ಪು ಮಾತಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ, ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಇರೋದೇ ತಪ್ಪು ಮಾತಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ. ಬಟ್ ಅನ್ಲೆಸ್ ಯು ಕಿಲ್ ದ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್, ಯು ವಿಲ್ ನಾಟ್ ಲರ್ನ್ ದ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್ ಅಂತ. ಬಟ್ ಡೋಂಟ್ ಕಿಲ್ ಯುವರ್ ಮದರ್ ಟಂಗ್. And this being a Rajyasabha mantra, I'm all the more happy to say, English is a medium of expression. The way you impress upon your audience, the way you put across your thoughts, that's more important. And it comes only when you have that intent, the real intent to teach something new. It will automatically come. I've been able to survive at this very higher level in University of Mahesh, Pratishtita Vishwavidyalaya, Pratishtita Vibhaga namdu. I've been able to survive quite well. And that's the reason, when you look at different perspectives, this is I'll come to the conclusion. You have more than one discipline in teaching and research. It will definitely give a better understanding of the topic. And it provides teachers and researchers a more comprehensive investigation that is rich and more so, it enables the learners to recognize contrasting perspectives, think critically. ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಇಂಪರ್ಫೆಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಇರ್ತವೆ, ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಿಲ್ಲ, ಎಲ್ಲಾನು ಪರ್ಫೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ನಾನು ಸಿಂಕ್ರನೈಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದೀನಿ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಹೇಳೋದಿಲ್ಲ. Imperfections are a greater part of life, I tell you. Imperfections lead to innovations. And perfections, sometimes perfectionist attitude will put barriers. It will create tension. It will create anxiety. But imperfection, when you just leave it at a broader, look at everything, embrace everybody, and it will develop you as a teacher, as a researcher, and more so as a human being, I'll tell you, as a human being. Yes, this is my presentation. Thank you for a very patient hearing. Now I'll open it up for discussion. And this is my last slide. This slide is also very important. Please make note of my credentials here. Please email me with your feedback. Whatever constructive, destructive, positive, negative, you're all my teachers, teacher friends. So with all your inputs, I would like to be a better teacher tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Professor, very thank you for enlightening all thoughts of economics. I basically economics, what I proud to say, I am an economics teacher. ನನಗೆ ಬಹಳ ಕ್ಯೂರಿಯಸ್ ಅನಿಸ್ತು ಸರ್ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಎಲ್ಲ ಥಾಟ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಥಿಯರಿಗಳು ನೋಡ್ತಾ ನಾನು ಡಿಗ್ರಿ ಕಾಲೇಜ್ ಟೀಚ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು.
ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಸರ್?
ಈ ವಿಜಯಪುರ ಸರ್. ನಾನು ಮುಂಚೆ ಇದ್ದಿದ್ದು ಬೆಳಗಾವಿಯಲ್ಲಿದ್ದೆ. ನಾನು ಗೋಪ್ಟೆ ಕಾಲೇಜ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೆ. ನಾನು ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಬಂದಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಇವಾಗ. ಅಕಾಡೆಮಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಈ ಥರದ್ದು ಏನು ಅಪ್ರೋಚ್ ಇದೆ, ಮಲ್ಟಿ ಡಿಸಿಪ್ಲಿನರಿ ಅಪ್ರೋಚ್ ತುಂಬಾ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಇದೆ ಸರ್. ನಾನು ಲಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ, ಮತ್ತೆ ಕಾಮರ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಈಗ ಪ್ಯೂರ್ ಆರ್ಟ್ಸಿಗೆ ಬಂದಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಆರ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಕಾಮರ್ಸ್ ಟಚ್ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಕಾಮರ್ಸ್ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಆರ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಟಚ್ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಈಗ ಬರ್ತಾ ಬರ್ತಾ ಅಕಾಡೆಮಿ ಹೆಂಗಾಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಒಂದೊಂದೇ ಸಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ನ ತೆಗಿತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಏನು ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಅದು ಯಾಕೆ ತೆಗಿತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಾನು ಗೋಗ್ಟೆ ಕಾಲೇಜಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಟಿಸ್ಟಿಕ್ಸ್ ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಟೀಚರ್ ಇದ್ರು, ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷ್ ಕಲ್ಸಕ್ಕೆ ಟೀಚರ್ ಇದ್ರು, ಕಾಮರ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಎಕನಾಮಿಕ್ಸ್ ಕಲ್ಸಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವೇ ಇದ್ವಿ. ಈಗ ಹೆಂಗಾಗಿದೆ, ನೀವು ಹೇಳ್ದಂಗೆ ವರ್ಕ್ ಲೋಡ್ ಭೂತ ಆಗ್ತಾರೆ ಒಳಗಡೆ ದೊಡ್ಡದು. ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಎಂಟ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಆಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಗೋಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೋಗಿದೆ. ಮತ್ತೆ ನ್ಯಾರೋ ಮೈಂಡ್ ಸೆಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದು ಶುರುವಾಗಿತ್ತು. ಈ ತರ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಆಗ್ತಾ ನಾವು ಕೊನೆಗೆ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕೌಶಲ್ಯ ರಹಿತ ಮಾನವ ಸಂಪನ್ಮೂಲವನ್ನ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡುವಂತ ಒಂದು ಕೇಂದ್ರಗಳಾಗಿದೆ ಇನ್ ಕನ್ನಡ ವರ್ಲ್ಡ್. There is no skill, there is no use. We producing such a people to the society, there is no use. In favor of our prestige, not to the student life. ಇದು pathetic ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಇದು comments, I want comments from this one.
On the one side, what you said, I accept, but we cannot be at the same time so cynical and think that things are going regressive and there is no. What is the light at the end of the tunnel? Is there a silver lining in the cloud? ಅಂತ ನಾವು ನೋಡ್ಲೇಬೇಕಾಗ್ತದೆ. and it should start from ourselves only. We should somehow try to. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಎಲ್ಲ ನೀವು ಹೇಳ್ದಂಗೆ ಅವರವರ ಮೂಗಿನ ನೇರಕ್ಕೆ, ಅವರವರ ಪ್ರತಿಷ್ಠೆಗೆ, ಅವರವರ ಈಗೋಗೆ ಅವರು ಸೀಮಿತ ಆಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ನ ಉದ್ದೇಶ, ಅವರ ಒಂದು ಬೆಳವಣಿಗೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿಯಾದ ಕನ್ಸರ್ನ್ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ ಮಾಡುವಂತ, ಇದನ್ನೇ ಡಿಸ್ಫಂಕ್ಷನಲ್.
Dysfunctional theory, sir. Yes. Contract is failed. Contract
I think Murugesh sir, just to add to your point, ನಮ್ಮ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಅಥವಾ ನಮ್ಮ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿ ಲೆವೆಲ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಅದು ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ. Just a small example, my daughter's classmate who did his PUC science 98%. ಶ್ರೀರಾಮ್ ಕಾಲೇಜ್ ಆಫ್ ಕಾಮರ್ಸ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಎಕನಾಮಿಕ್ಸ್ ತಗೊಳ್ತಾನೆ ಹುಡುಗ. ಸೊ ಅದೆಲ್ಲೋ ನಮ್ಮ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿ. he took and he called me, ನನ್ನ ಮಗಳ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್, he called me and said, auntie, what paper should I take? I said, IB ತಗೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಇಂಟರ್ನ್ಯಾಷನಲ್ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್. You should see the papers what they have. ಇದು ನಮ್ಮ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿ ಅಥವಾ ನಮ್ಮ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತ್ರ ಈ ಎಕನಾಮಿಕ್ಸ್, because we come, the mother of commerce is economics. So ಎಲ್ಲೋ ನಮ್ಮ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿ, ನಮ್ಮ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಅದಿದೆ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ. When you talk about niche universities ನಲ್ಲಿ, and when you talk about western countries ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಮರ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನೋ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಅನ್ನೋ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ which is more of economics. So possibly ನಮ್ದು ಇಲ್ಲಿ system it's all workload system. ಮಕ್ಕಳನ್ನು
narrow mindset.
Yeah.
Professor, narrow mindset.
And I really appreciate Mahesh sir when you said ರಿಸರ್ಚ್. ಎಷ್ಟರ ಮಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ರಿಸರ್ಚ್ ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆ ಇದೆ. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಈಗ ನಾನು ಒಂದು ರಿಮೋಟ್ ಜಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ, ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಸ್ಕಿಲ್ ಆಫ್ ಟೀಚಿಂಗ್. ಟೀಚರ್ ಶುಡ್ ಕಮ್ ವಿತ್ ದಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್. ಅಷ್ಟೊಂದು ರಿಸರ್ಚ್ ಕಂಟೆಂಟ್ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ನಾವು ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಏನು ಕೊಡಕ್ ಆಗದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಏನು ಉಪಯೋಗ? ಅದು ಇಟ್ಸ್ ರಿಯಲಿ ನೈಸ್ ದಟ್ ಯು ಐಡೆಂಟಿಫೈಡ್ ದಟ್. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಬಿಗಿನಿಂಗ್ ಟಾಕ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಐಡೆಂಟಿಫೈ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಿ. ಅಂಡ್ ಇಂಟರ್ ಡಿಸಿಪ್ಲಿನರಿ, ಅದನ್ನ ನಮ್ಮ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಗೆ ಐಡೆಂಟಿಫೈ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ? ಹೇಗೇನ್ ಕಂಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟಲೈಸಿಂಗ್, ಕಾಮರ್ಸ್ ಶುಡ್ ನಾಟ್ ಮಿಕ್ಸ್ ವಿತ್ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್, both should go hand in hand. Simple example, when I met one of the gynac, ಅವ್ರು ಏನ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು, ಮೇಡಮ್ ಈಗ ನಾವು ಮೆಡಿಸಿನ್ ಗಿಂತಲೂ ಲಾ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ನಾವು ಟ್ರೀಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಅಂಡ್ ಒನ್ ಆಫ್ ಮೈ ಕಲೀಗ್ ಹೂ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಲಾಯರ್, he said, madam, you never know you require a lawyer until you go. So namge being civilized society, we should have knowledge of all the subjects. That is how I see interdisciplinary law. ನೀವು ರಿಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ, ಲಾ, ಕಾಮರ್ಸ್, ನನಗೆ ಎಕನಾಮಿಕ್ಸ್ ಬೆಲೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಿದೆ ಇಂಟರ್ನ್ಯಾಷನಲ್ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ. ವೆರಿ ಯು ಶುಡ್ ಗೋ ಇನ್ ಟು ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ಎಕಾನಮಿ ಪ್ರೈಸಸ್ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋ ಅಂತದ್ದು. ಸೊ ದಟ್ಸ್ ಹೌ ಐ ಫೀಲ್ this was a great time wherein you created. Hope you will also create that impact in the university and in the state. Thank you, Mahesh sir.
Thank you.
My only just my question is, when probably we all have come across, when we go to the petrol bunks and other stuffs and all, we'll be seeing the people tagging themselves, selling the co-brand credit cards. So where those students are the graduates or the master graduates, okay, who will be selling these credit cards, as a business, so that is the promotion, that is the marketing. So because they'll be recruited by some companies, they'll be representing them because they are paying, these people have got the job. And probably like I have heard so many cases from my students itself. So like using someone's identity and making it and giving the loans, and as you said, like it's a fraud has become a part and parcel of everyone's life now. The business world has become and hiding itself and making a frauding. So where the students have become a scapegoat of it actually. So and on top of it, they want to sell their products and they want to make a profit, but and in the meantime, they're also blaming the education institutions that you're not incorporating the skills, which are required as per the industrial requirement or the market requirement or the labor requirement. So where the students whom we are educating, we are sending, they are on the roads and they are selling, and they are also into the frauding cases. So where of course the multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary approach is very very good, because we need to have the knowledge of each and every subject. As you said, economics is very much important, law is very much important, but when it comes to the reality of all these things, so how can we contribute in suppressing these kind of unethical practices which are promoted, and in an open market, the companies, so-called companies, are the businesses are practicing.
You're touching upon one aspect of, I mean, a company misusing or abusing the services of its employees, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
same
Yeah,
kind of a
yes, yes.
question Dr. Shivkumar sir also written in the
Yes,
chat
yes, no,
box.
he has
Yeah,
typed
yeah.
in the chat box. Sir, Dr. Shivkumar sir ಬಂದು ಸೆಂಟ್ರಲ್ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿ ಆಫ್ ಕೇರಳ, ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಇಯರ್ ಇಂಪೇರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಇದೆ, ಬಟ್ ಅವ್ರ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಬರ್ದಿರೋಂಥದ್ದು, ಡಿಯರ್ ಕಲೀಗ್ಸ್, ಇನ್ ದ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಸಿನಾರಿಯೋ ಕಂಪನೀಸ್ ಇನ್ ಆಲ್ ಸೆಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಚೀಟಿಂಗ್ ಇನ್ ಒನ್ ಆರ್ ದಿ ಅದರ್ ವೇ. ಕಾಮನ್ ಪೀಪಲ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಅಸ್ ಆರ್ ದಿ ಮೇಜರ್ ವಿಕ್ಟಿಮ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಕೂಡ ಅವ್ರು ಬರ್ದಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
ಅದೇ ಅಪ್ರೆನ್ಷನ್ ಅವ್ರು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಈಗ ನಾವು over a period of time, see, we have evolved as a nation, 75 years, 76 years, 7 years as a nation. And we had a rich heritage of around 5,000 years of rich culture and values and traditions. And we've been looted by the Mughals for some time, for so many
invaders.
800 years, and 200 years by British. And now, as an independent India, in strides that we have made in the last 75 years, right from the beginning till now, without taking into any affiliation to the right or the left, whoever who have ruled our country has faced many challenges. And there is always a nexus between lawmaking, the policymakers, and the business people, obviously. And do you know, in the first independent India, first Prime Minister of India